Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Time for some BookTube stuff. I was tagged this morning by Pat at Book Chat with Pat. And then also, later on in the day, a tag came through from Robert G. at Robert G. Reader of Books, both for the same tag. Now this is about the 12 books one would take with them into the apocalypse. And it was inspired by Mark at Book Time with Elvis, who had watched some video of the now infamous scene in the White House Oval Office wherein Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, currently the president and vice president of the United States, really tried to bully and harass and bamboozle the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. And I have not seen video of the occasion. But the fallout from it has been enough. One easily gets a picture of what went on, and I expect it will be in many a history book henceforth, a book chronicling the crumbling of the empire of the United States. Incidentally, there was some kind of poll taken recently, and I think it was pretty much worldwide or something, about world leaders that present the greatest threat to world peace. And Donald Trump came ahead with something like 47%, and he outdid all of the other contenders combined. So he is considered to be the greatest threat to world peace, and I would not suppose that assessment to be wrong. We are also living under the threat of climate catastrophe. I kind of suspect that my country will completely fall apart before the climate does, but so far the climate has been unraveling at a more rapid pace than even the best scientists predicted. So one cannot say. Once the dominoes start to fall, there is no telling what kind of consequences may inadvertently be called into being. So I decided to do my own take on this. As you will see from the title, I just decided to go with poetry books. For the most part, other types of books, novels, that kind of stuff, I wouldn't particularly be interested in taking that kind of stuff into the apocalypse. I'm guessing that the purpose of this primarily is to use these books to console yourself, if not, then possibly to have some assurance that they might survive the apocalypse. But I think these, for me at least, would qualify in either case. I have to say too that if each of us brings our own selection of apocalypse-ready books, and we somehow manage to come together, we'll have a pretty strong library, because there has not been an awful lot of overlap. Of course, as I say, I'm doing the poetry edition. I more or less endorse everything that Robert picked out in his video, and also much of what Pat did as well, with the caveat that I probably don't have an interest in sparing or taking with me any novels. It's just not where my interest lies particularly. Robert G. speaks very highly of the Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, and for me that falls in the class of good to have read, but I don't know that one would want to go there again. He also picked out, and I could very easily do as well, the Psalms. This is a book which gives different translations of the Psalms, but this is just a out-and-out translation by Nicolas Delange. I don't know how you say his name, really. When I was a boy, there was a period of time when the Psalms, and particularly one psalm, was very important to me. And Robert describes them in his video very nicely. It's understandable. It would be in a different list. And I understand that these may well be some poetry, but I decided to stick away from religious texts. That could easily become a whole nother list of 12. So Pat also mentioned, I think it was the Norton Anthology of Poetry, and I decided I would not go with anthologies, but were I to just come up with some kind of generalized list, then I would choose this anthology to be sure, and I think I would sit very comfortably with the third edition. I might not want to go very much farther than that. And in a pinch, I would take the shortened version of this shorter edition, they called it. But this is quite a nice book. I almost never use it just because it is so big. But it's got certain things in it, such as the long poem by Oliver Goldsmith, not The Traveler, the other one. But be that as it may, I thought I would show this because I thought Pat's choice was very, very wise. As far as the works of an individual poet, I think she and I would differ in our tastes. So, as I say, if we all meet together in some higher ground of this apocalypse, we have a lot of books that we can share amongst ourselves. So, Robert said it all begins with Homer. Well, I don't know what I want to take. I was going to say take umbrage with that, but I don't think I go so far as to do that. But I take exception to that. For me, it does not all start with Homer. Now, I should say I am wholly within my own tradition here. I am not grabbing some books from, say, the Chinese poets, that kind of thing. I just do not have the familiarity. If I had greater familiarity with, say, some of the medieval poets in Arabic, I might go there. I think somebody recently who did this picked a volume of the poet Rumi, and I thought that was a very good, I just can't remember who's doing what. That might have been Mark at Book Time with Elvis. I can't remember now, because his video I saw quite like when it came out, which is probably a few days ago, and I don't remember things at all. But I decided that my starting point would be Gilgamesh. I read this last year, I think, in the Penguin translation. I prefer my epic poetry to be translated in prose. I see little utility in trying to render an ancient work of poetry or even a older work of poetry, particularly in the epic style, into verse. There have been successful attempts. I've heard that Dryden, I think, did a very nice Aeneid. I think Poe did some Homer that's very reputable. But I decided not to go with Homer. For me, it does not start with Homer. I can't even say for me, in my experience, that it starts with this, because I never had any exposure to this until I saw a very nice video by Hannah at Hannah's Books about this. And there are many translations, and I read the Penguin one, and I said, I know I have the David Ferry one somewhere, and as soon as I find it, if I do, I will read it, because that's how much I love this book. And then, you know, a few months later, I did find the David Ferry and broke that promise. But now I can't find the Penguin one, so I have this one here. And it's just a really magnificent story, kind of, what is the word, archetypal? Brings you to sort of an everyman type of character, I would say. There's little chance that you will not relate to this. And I'm pretty sure that this antedates Homer. It might even antedate some of the Bible, because I think there was a flood myth or something that it may have been believed that the Bible cobbled it from this. I really don't remember any of that. I'm not really that interested. But so this is my starting point. So I have not read David Ferry's version of it, but I've glanced at it and it seems pretty nice. Now, my second book was corresponding with Robert, The Divine Comedy by Dante. So you've got, how does it go? Hell, Purgatory, and Paradise. That's hell there. And this is the Sinclair translation. I think Sinclair, yeah. And I would, of course, want to have it in a bilingual edition. My Italian is good enough to derive some pleasure and some value from the text in its original. There are really no restrictions on this tag, as it were, but some folks have said, well, it shouldn't be a series, that kind of thing. Well, I guess this could be called a series, and it does appear in 3 volumes. If I can only take one, well, should I choose the portable Dante? It's a Penguin edition that has Dante and it has the Vita Nova in there. Should I do that and just go with the English translation? I think it's Mark Musa and it's very nice, but I decided no. So if I am only allowed to take one of these, then I will take the poet's book, which is Purgatory. But I will try to snatch all 3 up if time permits. So that was number 2. Kind of in league is our next poet. Can you guess? Ta-da! Chaucer. I would bring Chaucer along with me. And this is a magnificent book. It's got just about everything in here that he did. I have not read everything that he did. I don't think there is any kind of a translation, but everything is pretty well glossed at the bottom of the page. His English is easier to get into than you might imagine once you accustom yourself to it. And following up, here, Robert and I differ again. He brought a 3-volume set of the plays by William Shakespeare. I don't need the plays, but I will take the sonnets, please. I thought, well, you could come up with a 1-volume edition of Shakespeare's poetry. There is a book that gives all of his sonnets, including sonnets from the plays, but his narrative poems, I think they're called. I'm sure you can find an edition with all of those, but I don't really need those. I was going to say, did he do a Troilus and Cressida? No, he did a play on that. That's one of Chaucer's. So I would bring this. Now I'm starting to lose my count. So let me see. 1, 2, 3. So this Shakespeare is number 4. And the next 3 are following upon Shakespeare, and then we will get into more modern times. So I would bring the complete English poems by John Donne. Sorry, I never took the price tag off. It was $2, and I like to feel good about things like that. I had a much worn mass market paperback copy of this exact edition, and it's very nice. Donne is a poet who, as with most poets, you don't need to read everything. And there are sections where I would dive in, and other sections which, having gone through, as with the brothers Karamazov, I wouldn't want to do it again. But still, given the apocalypse, I'd like to take the whole thing with me. Why not? So, John Donne. I roughly have tried to put these in some kind of chronological order, but I did not look anything up just to. And then after that, I will go with Blake, and he's another one. I could easily just take Songs of Innocence and of Experience, perhaps, and leave the rest. But he's very interesting, and there are bits of prose in here as well. So, given the apocalypse, I'd like to have the whole thing with me, and this particular edition. I did a video about like my primary poets or something like that, and he was one of them. I think John Donne may well have been, but most certainly John Keats was. And he again is a poet. Even just the Dover Thrift edition would serve me fine. I don't need to have everything, but still, it is John Keats, and it's the apocalypse. I want all of John Keats there with me. I would even take a second stab. Well, it's not the second. It's been more than one. I would read Lamia again. Robert Gittings thought it was one of his greats. I've read it a couple of times, and it just doesn't gel for me, as the saying goes. But I might even take, what is it, the Pot of Basil. I would try to read that again and see what I felt about it. Now we are getting closer to home, and I will say Emily Dickinson. The complete poems here. This is the nice hardback edition. I think we have another one in another part of the apartment, and I have my old paperback copy, which is my go-to edition. I don't use this one, but I thought I would bring it out just to show. Many years ago, I was in a bookstore in Chicago, no longer here, and they had a really nice copy of this for about $10, and I thought about it, but $10 did not come easy in those days, and I let it pass. And then many years later, when I became more affluent, I saw this somewhere, and this was $5, and I thought, well, $5, I can spare that, and I picked it up. And then all these years after that, well, guess what? I actually still go back to the paperback anyhow, but it's nice to have. And then we have William Butler Yeats. Whoops. I did a reading of William Butler Yeats recently, actually a set of 4 readings from his complete poems. And I made all these little bookmarks, and I just dropped a whole bunch of them. If you saw, I think it may well have been the first one. I was going on and on about how I was reading from the complete poems of William Butler Yeats, which I don't tend to go to very often. This is my go-to for Yeats. And I said, one of the poems by Yeats that I kind of know by heart since very early on was Brown Penny. And then I read it, and it was not at all the poem that I knew. And I would have picked that complete volume out to take to the apocalypse, but not with the wrong version of Brown Penny. So this book has the better version. The difference, or the differences betwixt the two, are startling. And you know, I understand that editors putting together that kind of compilation have all kinds of choices that they have to make. And so it's not an easy task. They were trying to be complete, but that could not entail every single version of every poem which Yeats revised. And Yeats is the anomaly among poets in that when he revised, he generally made things better and usually made things a lot better. W.H. Auden is the opposite. When he revised, he made it worse, and Auden is much more typical and much more common. The story is that Yeats was from an older generation. I forget what it was called. Georgian or Augustan, I don't know, something like that. Not Victorian, I guess, although maybe tail end of that. And he wrote very sort of conventionally, and then when the modernists came along, he felt their vibe, and just it helped him to breathe some new life into his stuff. I don't really think that's entirely true, because a lot of his old stuff is pretty good. But be that as it may, this is the copy that I will take with me. I will gladly forego many of those other poems so long as I have the correct Brown Penny. Now we move to a poet that Yeats could not stand. And Yeats was wrong, of course. And this is Wilfred Owen. He is a poet, as with John Keats, where you don't need all of this. And actually, were I to include anthologies, probably everything one might really need from Owen is in here. A handful of poems. But again, he's a poet that I love dearly, and I would just as soon have everything, even though particularly some of the really earliest stuff is markedly inferior, imitative, and so forth. But given it's the apocalypse, there might be new life in some of these lines for me. I mean, you have to understand, with a poet like Owen or Keats, they both died at 25, something like that. And they were sort of forced to mature into their great poetry by circumstances almost. It is hard to say where either man would have gone had he survived his circumstance. Now, I would say Yeats is the greatest poet of his era, without a doubt. But the indispensable poet is T.S. Eliot. So this is the book I would take. For me, with Eliot, you need the four quartets as it were. But I would also want the poem Proof Rock. So I thought, well, I'll saddle myself with the rest of this. I think there may be a complete poems that carries the date further, until the time of his death. But this is pretty nice. The plays that are included are kind of fun too, so worth the read. So I've forgotten to count, but I'm pretty sure I've got the 12. Well, the number 12 for me is, of course, no surprise to this channel, Claude McKay, absolutely in this edition. I had his complete poems. When it came out, I rushed to buy it and was so distraught and disgusted by the volume, I returned it, which now I regret because you can't buy it even for that price. But again, those were in days when money was fairly tight. And really, this for me has everything. It has a biographical note by Max Eastman. Actually, that was appended at the back in the first edition of this. And there was an introduction written by somebody else, and I can't remember who it was. And I have seen that book. I read the introduction, and it did not stand up to time. But what Max Eastman had to write was, he at one point slips in what McKay's first biographer referred to as an unconscious condescension. Be that as it may, Max recognized the value in Claude. As in one of my sonnets I mentioned, he was the writer who really mastered iambic pentameter for our day. Eliot gives Yeats a lot of credit for his poem or play poem Purgatory, which I conclude, I think, my fourth set of readings of Yeats with, for bringing free verse, I think it might be called. It's iambic pentameter with no kind of rhyme. He brought it into the modern age, and indeed he did. If you read Robert Frost's best poems are the stuff that is not rhymed. Generally speaking, my teacher Paul Carroll told me that, and I agree with him for the most part. But even his line is a little bit more clunky and cumbersome, or just kind of lumbering, I guess. Now, other poets did do very well. Edna St. Vincent Millay did, of course, marvelously, but you have fewer pickings. Wilfred Owen certainly did, but his harked back to an older cadence, I think you might say, of particularly British poetry. So for our age and for my purposes, it was Claude McKay all the way. There's one or two poems in here that might seem facile and derivative, but all in all, there's not a clunker in here. It's a magnificent book. So that is my 12 books of poetry for the apocalypse. And now to extend the video even longer, I will do a little bit of reading from each of these. How about that? So number one, I will just read the start of this because I'm not really familiar with David Ferry. The story of him who knew the most of all men know, who made the journey, heartbroken, reconciled, who knew the way things were before the flood, the secret things, the mystery, who went to the end of the earth and over, who returned and wrote the story on a tablet of stone. I don't remember how this compares with the Penguin prose version that I have. I liked that very much. But this is a very nice sounding line that David Ferry has for this. So maybe one of these days I will get to it. Number two, you may recall, was Dante. And what can I read from Dante? I suppose the entrance to hell. Where does he go into? Where does he see those words above the thing? Per me si va nella città dolente, etc. Let me see. I'll try to find it. No, I'm not finding a contents. This always happens when I try to find something and I don't have any. Well, Canto, the Dark Wood, it's not there yet. Canto 2, it won't be there yet. It comes further on because he's got to go through limbo or whatever it's called at the start. Oh, here it is. It's number 3. I'll give it to you both in the Italian, my my poor Italian, and the English. Per me si va nella città dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente. Giustizia Mose, il mio alto fattore, fecemi la divina potestate, la somma sapienza e il primo amore. Dinanzi a me non fuor cose create se non eterne, e io eterna duro. Lasciate ogni speranza voi che entrate. Through me the way into the woeful city, through me the way to the eternal pain, through me the way among the lost people. Justice moved my Maker on high. Divine power made me, and supreme wisdom and primal love. Before me nothing was created but eternal things, and I endure eternally. Abandon every hope, ye that enter. I think the water fountain has been licked dry. And I just filled it today. There's been a whole lot, I'll get you some in a little bit, a whole lot of drinking going on. Now for Chaucer, so this is number 4. Was it? No, this is number 3. Shakespeare was 4, that's right. I suppose just the start of the Canterbury Tales. There she is. I'm trying to find some Chaucer, my dear. saying of Shakespeare's that has slipped into the common parlance as there is more on heaven and earth, Horatio, than is dreamt of in your philosophy. The common telling of it is probably a little bit better, a notch better than how Shakespeare had it, but it is indelibly true. It is so true. What we dream of in our philosophy doesn't really account for much. And that, I think, is why I chose to go with poetry when it comes to language. For me, at least, the pinnacle is poetry. And so you may have Thomas Aquinas, and he may be great, but as T.S. Eliot pointed out, how much better to have Thomas Aquinas regurgitated through Dante. I know. Okay, here we go. I'll get you some in a second, kiddo. So I'll just read a little of this. And I'm not particularly schooled in this, so it'll just be my bad version from the general prologue. When that April with his showers suit, the draught of March hath persed to the road, and bathed every vein in switch liqueur, of which virtue engendered is the flour. When Zephyrus eke with his sweet breath inspired hath in every holt and heath, the tender croppes and the younge sun hath in the ram his have course run, and smalle fowls making melody that sleepen all the nacht with open ye. So pricketh hem nature in her courages, then longen folk to gon on pilgrimages. And something from Shakespeare. I'll just let it open where it does. This is number 89. Say that thou didst forsake me for some fault, and I will comment upon that offense. Speak of my lameness, and I straight will halt against thy reasons, making no defense. Thou canst not, love, disgrace me half so ill, to set a form upon desired change, as I'll myself disgrace, knowing thy will. I will acquaintance strangle and look strange. Be absent from thy walks, and in my tongue thy sweet beloved name no more shall dwell, lest I too much profane should do it wrong, and haply of our old acquaintance tell. For thee against myself I'll vow debate, for I must ne'er love him whom thou dost hate. I said that was number 4. Number 5 must be Blake. Oh no, 5 was done, wasn't it? Where did I put him? Oh, there he is. So what shall I do here? I should keep it short, I think. Well, the early ones are. Well, I don't have to keep it super short, but. Oh gosh, there's so much nice stuff. I just want. He's one that I'm less confident with picking something that I'm not familiar with. I haven't read this stuff in a long time. How about the computation? I don't really know this one at this point. For the first 20 years since yesterday, I scarce believed thou couldst be gone away. For 40 more I fed on favors past, and 40 on hopes that thou wouldst they might last. Tears drowned 100, and sighs blew out 2. 1,000 I did neither think nor do, or not divide, all being one thought of you. Or in 1,000 more forgot that too. Yet call not this long life, but think that I am, by being dead, immortal. Can ghosts die? Food for thought in the apocalypse. So if Shakespeare was 4, Donne was 5, then Blake must be 6. And this is a case, this is not the edition that I tend to use because I am most likely to go to Songs of Innocence and of Experience. Okay, well, this is... This is called A Little Boy Lost. You know, he had the innocence and he had the experience. At first, I think it was just innocence, but then when he decided to do the experience, he wrote sort of matching poems. There's not direct matches all the time. And then poems that had been in one, he shifted to the other. So I can't exactly say. I would guess this is from Experience. Oh yeah, it looks like it. This is A Little Boy Lost. The one in Innocence is, of course, just stupendous, really. But this is the Experience one. A Little Boy Lost. Naught loves another as itself, nor venerates another so. Nor is it possible to thought a greater than itself to know. And Father, how can I love you or any of my brothers more? I love you like the little bird that picks up crumbs around the door. Excuse me. She gets things. The priest sat by and heard the child. In trembling zeal, he seized his hair and led him by his little coat, and all admired the priestly care. And standing on the altar high, "Lo, what a fiend is here," said he, "one who sets reason up for judge of our most holy mystery." The weeping child could not be heard. The weeping parents wept in vain. They stripped him to his little shirt and bound him in an iron chain, and burned him in a holy place where many had been burned before. The weeping parents wept in vain. Are such things done on Albion's shore? Such things will be done here very soon if the Republican Party, led by Donald Trump, has its way. Already, legal holders of a green card, at least in one instance, are being plucked out and disappeared, as they say. No warrant, no Miranda rights, no due process, none of that. That's the United States of America today. So yeah, such things will be done here directly. So did I say that was 6? That Keats must be 7. And it just happened to fall open because of this bookmark to the poems about fame. Oh, well, it fell open to that too. I'll do that one. 2 or 3 posies. 2 or 3 posies with 2 or 3 simples. 2 or 3 noses with 2 or 3 pimples. 2 or 3 wise men and 2 or 3 ninnies. 2 or 3 purses and 2 or 3 guineas. 2 or 3 raps at 2 or 3 doors. 2 or 3 naps of 2 or 3 hours. 2 or 3 cats and 2 or 3 mice. 2 or 3 sprats at a very great price. 2 or 3 sandies and 2 or 3 tabbies. 2 or 3 dandies and 2 Mrs. 2 or 3 smiles and 2 or 3 frowns. 2 or 3 miles to 2 or 3 towns. 2 or 3 pegs for 2 or 3 bonnets. 2 or 3 doves' eggs to hatch into sonnets. That was very nice. So is Dickinson 8? I think so. She's another one I think we can just kind of blindly pick. Whoops, upside down. Okay. 637. The child's faith is new, whole like his principle, wide like the sunrise on fresh eyes, never had a doubt, laughs at a scruple, believes all sham but paradise. Credits the world, deems his dominion broadest of sovereignties, and Caesar mean in the comparison, baseless emperor, ruler of naught, yet swaying all. Grown by and by to hold mistaken his pretty estimates of prickly things, he gains the skill, sorrowful as certain, men to anticipate instead of kings. She really deserves a read through now after all these years as well. My God. I'll be doing well in the apocalypse. Provided I've got Dickinson. 9, was it William Butler Yeats? Well, I might as well do the Brown Penny since I talked about it. I think he holds up a penny. I whispered, I am too old, and then I am old enough. Wherefore I threw a penny to find out if I might love. Go and love, young man, if the lady be young and fair. Ah, penny, brown penny, I am looped in the loops of her hair. Ah, love is the crooked thing. There is no one wise enough to find out all that is in her. For he would be thinking of love till the shadows had eaten, till the stars had flown away and the shadows eaten the moon. Ah, penny, brown penny, one cannot begin it too soon. let me see, was that in it or in her? I don't remember. Can I find it that quick? Yeah, I think it's titles here. 37. To find out all that is in it. Okay, well, let me give it to you. I whispered, I am too young, and then I am old enough, wherefore I threw a penny to find out if I might love. Go and love, young man, if the lady be young and fair. Ah, penny, brown penny, brown penny, I am looped in the loops of her hair. Oh, love is the crooked thing. There is nobody wise enough to find out all that is in it, for he would be thinking of love till the stars had run away and the shadows eaten the moon. Ah, penny, brown penny, brown penny, one cannot begin it too soon. Was 10 Eliot? I can't recall now. No, I think I went to Owen next. I don't remember the birth order, honestly, but I'll keep it as I had it. Drafted in London on 10 May 1916, this sonnet is almost certainly a recollection of a day with the De La Touche boys. I think he was teaching in France or something like that. I don't recall. For a while. And 2 with the line. 3 rompers run together, hand in hand. The middle boy stops short, the others hurtle. What bumps, what shrieks, what laughter turning turtle. Love, racing between us two, has planned a sudden mischief. Shortly he will stand, and we shall shock. We cannot help but fall. What matter? Why, it will not hurt at all. Our youth is supple, and the world is sand. Better our lips should bruise our eyes than he, rude love, outrun our breath. You pant, and I cannot run much farther. Mind that we both laugh with love, and having tumbled, try to go forever children, hand in hand. The sea is rising, and the world is sand. Very appropriate for the apocalypse. Well, if I have 2 left, that must mean that this is number 11. So something from Eliot. Let's see what we got. I want to go for short, but oh, well, this is... This is so well known. You just don't know with these poems by Eliot if you're going to come across some impossible word that you have no idea how to pronounce. but I'm probably okay with this. This is titled Whispers of Immortality. Webster was much possessed by death, and saw the skull beneath the skin, and breastless creatures underground leaned backward with a lipless grin. Daffodil bulbs instead of balls stared from the sockets of the eyes. He knew that thought clings round dead limbs, tightening its lusts and luxuries. Donne, I suppose, was such another, who found no substitute for sense, to seize and clutch and penetrate, expert beyond experience. He knew the anguish of the marrow, the ague of the skeleton. No contact possible to flesh allayed the fever of the bone. Grishkin is nice. Her Russian eye is underlined for emphasis. Uncorseted, her friendly bust gives promise of pneumatic bliss. The couched Brazilian jaguar, I think he might have said jaguar, compels the scampering marmoset with subtle effluence of cat. Grishkin has a maisonette. The sleek Brazilian jaguar does not, in its arboreal gloom, distill so rank a feline smell as Grishkin in a drawing room. And even the abstract entities circumambulate her charm, but our lot crawls between dry ribs to keep our metaphysics warm. So you see, just so far in this span of 11 poems, that one by Blake, you've had innumerable poems that touch upon philosophy, and philosophy is always better when distilled through poetry. And last, I think this will be all, number 12, something by Claude McKay. Well, in the apocalypse, we can remember how things used to be. This is titled On Broadway. About me, young and careless feet linger along the garish street. Above, 100 shouting signs shed down their bright, fantastic glow upon the merry crowd and lines of moving carriages below. Oh, wonderful is Broadway, only my heart is lonely. Desire naked, linked with passion, goes strutting by in brazen fashion. From playhouse, cabaret, and inn, the rainbow lights of Broadway blaze, all gay without, all glad within. As in a dream I stand and gaze at Broadway, shining Broadway, only my heart is lonely. So that's it for the apocalypse, clocking in at almost an hour. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.